Yeah.
Yeah, so, but you've had a lot of experience. You've been on the road, and so you come back to Branson. Quite frankly, you step into a show that had quite a following with Jarrett
Oh, and Paul.
and Paul. Mm-hmm.
They have kind of a history of having good comics there, but I'm doing my thing. I told them last night, I was like, there is no pretension in our show right now. We're not pretending to be anything. I'm telling the jokes I like. I'm a storyteller, more or less. They're singing the songs they like to sing, and I'm telling the jokes that I like.
And the audience can tell that.
And I think they can tell that. When I was doing stand up, I actually sat. I was a sit down stand up comic.
Oh, well, that's...
And I always kind of had that feeling like we're all sitting around talking. We're in the living room talking. I'm telling a story. My story takes 45 minutes, and unfortunately, you're not going to get to tell yours.
Right.
Because you got to go, yeah.
And that's kind of how I conduct our show, and I get compliments about that. As the MC, I act kind of as an outsider. Like, when something happens, wow, wasn't that...
Wow.
That was pretty
Well, that's a really neat approach to it, and I always did it the opposite way. As the MC, I always thought, this is my show, and I have some great guests in my show that are going to make my show fantastic. And don't you agree? Wasn't that wonderful? God, we're having a great time.
And I do that. I mean, I talk them up when they're coming out, but then afterwards they'll say, wow, that was really good.
Wow.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. But...
And that Carson approach to it, Johnny Carson was kind of like that. Johnny Carson by himself for an hour wouldn't really be that great, hour after hour. But every night he brought wonderful people.
He knew how to make people.
He knew how to make people laugh.
And I'm trying really hard.
You're doing great, buddy.
My grandfather actually looked very much like Johnny Carson.
Really?
And so they would always say that. So I became intrigued by him. And there's a great documentary about Carson on Netflix about his life. And they interview everyone that knew him and what he was like in real life. And he started off as a magician.
Yes, he did. That's
his
right.
His mother got him a book because he was very self-conscious. And she wanted him to become more outgoing. So he became that he used that approach to kind of show off the people like he would show off the tricks. And I found a lot of similarities with me. And we were kind of just talking about that, where I used magic because I was so shy, and comedy because I was so shy and got picked on a lot.
Oh, wow.
As a kid. So I heard a quote from a comedian that said, a lot of guys become comedians to take the focus off of something they're not proud of about themselves.
Wow.
So I thought that was kind of... Harry Shearer is the one that said that, and I thought that was kind of interesting.
I think Carson played drums, too. Was he not a drummer?
I think he did, yeah. A lot of people don't know that. And but he was extremely shy off stage and wanted nothing to do with people, pretty much.
I read Ed McMahon's biography for some strange reason. I think I bought the audiobook, and it was really cheap.
But it was a lot of slurred speech.
Yeah, and there was a lot of, "Ho!" I mean, he actually talked a lot about that, and I was more or less more interested in Carson and the Tonight Show.
Yeah, the documentary is amazing. I
need to see that. Yeah, I should see that.
Yeah, we have television now here in Branson.
Right,
so.
And there's nobody, I don't think, who has done more for stand-up comedy than Johnny Carson, even though he's been... I mean, man, we're back to the guy after him now. Jimmy Fallon's taken over. But still, to this day, I think Carson did more for stand-up comedy.
Yeah, but if Carson was around now, I think it would be entirely different. I don't think he would have the success, because I think the internet, YouTube...
Right.
Viral videos, people just taking their phones out and shooting little goofy things. No, we don't discuss that.
Yeah, we can talk about that. When did you graduate high school?
I was in school in the 90s, let's say.
Okay, all right, so you're younger than I am. I graduated in 83. I'm almost 50. And so you may not even remember the 3-channel TV days.
Oh, I do. Yeah, I remember that.
There was a collective conscience back then. Everybody kind of knew the same thing. When I went to 8th grade on Wednesday when I was in 8th grade, I knew every kid in those halls that I was walking with had watched Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley the night before. I never all of them had. And real quick, before we run out of time here, this has nothing to do with anything we're talking about, but I'll show you kind of an example of that. This is probably 1978 on Happy Days. As a gimmick, they had a guy come on that put the coins on his arm and caught the coins. And he was going for the world record. And they wrote him a little part in the show where he worked in the back. And Guinness, it was actually a Guinness record. They had the people from Guinness come on there, and that's what he was doing. They found out he was inept at anything, but they found out he could do that, so that was the big deal. So they ran that on the show Tuesday night. By Friday, I can remember sitting watching the news. I believe it was David Brinkley came on the news, and the top story Friday was the practice of coin catching has been banned in schools across America because of the
Wow.
disturbances that it's caused. So that just kind of reinforces what I just said. Tuesday night, we all saw that.
Mm-hmm.
By Friday, all across America, it had been, teacher, my nickel fell under the thing. My money's under the
right.
I don't have my lunch money now because it fell under the grate or whatever. All across America. And I kind of think that's, to me, it's kind of cool. I kind of,
it's all lost now.
yeah, my kids walk around not knowing anything. I don't know what my kids are watching, and Honey Boo Boo, and were you watching Housewives of whatever, and this show, and
No, I totally agree. Because
Stuff
when I
that-
try to talk to people about a certain show, series, or something, they have no idea what I'm
right,
talking about.
and even history. Like we kind of grew up knowing the story of Romeo and Juliet. We kind of grew up knowing the story of Abraham Lincoln's assassination or whatever. I don't think my kids. How old are your kids?
Well, I have 3-year-olds. I have twins that we were talking about.
Right.
And I have a 14-year-old.
So did your 14-year-old know anything about what would be collective knowledge that we had 20 years ago?
No, probably not.
Probably not. Yeah.
No.